welcome to another edition of Yoga with Anne. Keeping with our theme for the past couple of months, staying with the idea of hearts and hips. I just really like this theme. I've been teaching it a lot in my weekly public classes. My students really enjoy it and resonate with it, so I thought I'd also share it with my YouTube classes. And since Sunday is Valentine's Day, depending on when you're doing this class, before or after Valentine's Day, just kind of I like to go with the theme of hearts for the month of February and typically the week of Valentine's Day. So we know that we feel things in our hearts, right? Even though it's an organ, we feel grief, we feel happiness, we feel pain, anger, all sorts of emotions that we feel in our hearts. And then we store a lot of emotions in our hips as well. So we have deep-seated hip flexor muscle called the psoas, spelled Psoas, that is connected with our fight, flight, freeze. It also touches our diaphragm, so when we breathe, we actually have a connection to our internal hips, so it's something to keep in mind. So when we're allowing our breath to release and let go, we also let go in the psoas, and so that can help to also release any emotions that you might be storing there. So when you do a hip practice, you may notice that you're releasing things, you're feeling more than you normally would, and that's okay. It's a safe place to be, but always know that that's a way to honor yourself, right? I talk about honoring your body, and it's not just your physical body. It's your whole body, right? Your emotions, your heart, your breath. You have to honor that, and sometimes it's to come out of a pose or not do a pose or modify it. So you know what's best for you, so always take care of yourself. Today for props, a folded blanket or a blanket or a towel that can fold or roll easily. If you happen to have a foam roller and you like to use that, we are going to do a heart opener today. So sometimes people like to use the foam roller, but it's not necessary. Really all you need is a towel or a blanket that folds or rolls easily. If you have a yoga block or yoga blocks, have those handy and something to use as a strap. We can work around it, but the pose that we're going to use the strap for works much more nicely, gives you more access with a strap. So you can use anything for a yoga strap if you don't have a typical strap. A scarf, the belt from a robe, a necktie, all sorts of things that you can use. I've even had students use actual belts. So as long as it's long enough, that's something that you can use. So I'm going to scooch back onto my mat. We're going to start in constructive rest, which is lying on your back with your knees bent and your feet on your mat. I like to use my folded blanket under my head as a pillow. That's optional. As you come down, make sure that your strap is nearby. So I'm going to have my strap nearby as I come to lie down. And as I come to lie down on my mat, I notice that I need to make some adjustments. So sometimes I can be with the hips, with the shoulders. Sometimes it can be nice to make a little movement, hugging your knees in. If you know, windshield wipering, moving your knees side to side. So give yourself a moment to really connect with your body to your mat. So we're stiff, we've got bad posture, we have injuries, we've had surgeries, our bodies aren't even. So try to bring a little bit of balance to your body so that you do feel more connected to your mat with the earth. And starting in constructive rest, your arms can be wherever you'd like. I like to have my hands on my belly. That really helps me to connect with my breath, to remember that I'm present, I'm in this moment, I'm breathing. It's really easy to float away from that. So this gives me that physical connection. And just notice your inhales and exhales. Don't alter or change anything. Just breathe. Next time you inhale, see if it can be a little bit fuller, longer, deeper, and really think about breathing into your heart, breathing in love, whatever that means to you. And as you exhale, really let that go. So let that exhale come all the way out. And think about something that you're holding on to that you don't need right now, and let it go. Release it. You may inhale the same idea of love or something different. And as you exhale, release. Maybe it's that same thing you just released or something else. Sometimes we hold on to a lot of things. It might be beneficial just to kind of keep in mind one or two things so you don't feel overwhelmed. We all have a lot of stuff happening. And then let's hug our knees into our chest. And you're welcome to just be still, right? Hugging in, that's a nice place to be. It's helping to release your low back, but I really like to rock side to side. That's what feels best for me. You might want to move your feet, your toes, your ankles. Maybe there's something else you want to do here on your back. And then let's come back to center, back to stillness. And if it's okay, you're going to have your right hand on your right knee, your left hand on your left knee, and you'll start to open your knees a little wider. So still hugging your knees into your chest, but having them wider. So I feel this a lot in my inner hips. You can always come back to having your knees closer together if that's better for you. I just have the lower parts of my legs hanging, my feet relaxed, but you may choose to be a little more active, pressing through your heels. Entirely up to you. You might want to try it and see what works better for you. And then we're going to keep our knees out wide if that's comfortable. I'm going to bring my hands behind my thighs, and then we'll start to reach our legs up toward the ceiling. So like a wide leg forward fold, but on our back. So your hands, I like to reach my hands from the outside of my thighs to the back of them to hold on. You might want to reach from the inside to the back. From where I am here, I can have my elbows as kickstands, so I'm not working as hard. This is pretty intense for me. Again, you can press through your heels or be a little more relaxed. I find it here to be a little more active is more helpful. Feel my legs shaking. And then let's bring our legs back together, bend your knees, and hug them back into your chest. And if you need to make some movement, especially because we were already working on those hips, right? You already may feel that. I feel it more in my inner hips. You may feel it more in your outer hips, both. And let's set one foot down and then the other. I have to adjust my hips and shoulders a little bit, and then I'm going to make sure that I have my strap. I'm just going to put it on my belly and hug your right knee into your chest. And then you're going to take your strap and you're going to put it either around the ball or the top of the heel. So the top of your heel is right where it meets the arch. So try not to have the strap right in the middle of your arch because you are doing a pull here. And once the strap's in place, you extend your leg up long. A lot of times I give you an option, but today keep your left knee bent, pressing through the ball or the heel, depending on the sensations you feel in your leg, in your low back. That sciatic nerve or your sacrum. You stay there for a breath or two more. I'm going to adjust because we're going to move in a moment, and I want you to be able to see what that looks like. If it's not clear with my language. All right, so pick your left foot up. Your knee is still bent. Take your strap into your right hand. So we're going to open our legs out to each side at the same time. So as you start to open up, you'll move your left knee to the left, your right leg to the right. And again, your left foot can be active if you want or hang a little bit. And we don't want to be tippy here. We want the sacrum to be really even. So you might notice that your right side, maybe your right side's opening up more, and I can feel myself tipping. So I bring my right leg back up to even it out. I like to have my left hand on my knee, kickstand my elbow here. Give a little support because it is pretty intense for my body. Next time you inhale, bring your legs back together. Fully exhale, release your strap, bend your knee, and hug your knees into your chest. And you may find that one side needs a little more attention than the other. I'm going to come back to how I started. Since you've seen the first side, so you know how the second side goes. Placing my strap on my belly. Hugging your left knee into your chest. Lassoing your foot on this side and then extending up. Keeping your right knee bent. Really reaching and extending, lengthening. Feel your sacrum, your pelvis really rooting into the mat. As your foot, your leg lift up toward the ceiling. And you'll take the strap into your left hand. You'll pick your right foot up. Can be active in that foot or not. I'm going to keep mine relaxed. And then you'll start to open up. Left leg to the left, right knee to the right. At the same amount, right? You don't want one side way over, then you get tippy. You want to be really even on your sacrum. So check in if you feel like you're tipping more to one side than the other. Adjust that. My left leg doesn't open up as much as it could if I were doing a different variation of this pose. Supta Padang Bhustasana 2. Our first variation was 1. This is a variation of 2. The next time you inhale, bring your legs back together. Fully exhale as you release your strap and bend your knee. Bringing your knees back into your chest. And again, making some movements, staying still, maybe favoring one side over the other. Set one foot down and then the other. And roll over to one side to come up to seated. Just for a moment, I'm just going to move my strap out of the way. We're going to set up for heart opener. So this is where you could use your foam roller. I'm pointing over at my foam roller. It's over there. So if you do decide to do the foam roller, pretend like this is a foam roller. And I would lie over it, having it parallel to my spine. I think that's the best option if you're using a foam roller. You don't have to use one, even if you have one or don't. So if you have a towel or a blanket, you'll open it up about this size. And then from one of the long ends, you'll make a roll. So it's just like the foam roller, right? Nice and long. I'm going to sit at the edge of my roll, starting with my knees bent, and I'll bring my spine parallel to the roll. And if you really feel like you need some extra support under your head, you could put another blanket or towel underneath, folded like we did for our initial poses, or even roll the blanket under and support your head and neck. So find what works best for you. I feel a little tippy here, so I actually like to step my feet wide and have my knees come together. If that doesn't work for you, you can stay in that kind of constructive rest legs, or you could extend your legs that long. That's a little much for my low back, and I just don't feel as stable. Hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, you close your eyes. You kind of feel your shoulder blades wrapping around your roll, whether it's the foam roller, a towel, or a blanket. Opening your heart. deepen your breath. If your legs are out long, bend your knees and bring your feet back to your mat. I'm going to set my feet closer together, have my knees rise. And then as you feel ready, roll over to one side, off of your roll, pressing yourself up to seated, just taking a moment here, just noticing the effects, the residue of that pose. We didn't hold it for very long, but that can be a nice pose to hold for 5 minutes. It's great to do in the morning, great to do before bed. You can set a timer on your phone. I'm going to unroll my blanket and bring it back to that folded position for my pillow. And we'll come back to lie down, back in constructive rest. And as you settle here, you might notice your back body connecting differently than it was earlier. So I definitely feel my shoulders more spread on my mat, more of my shoulder blades touching the mat than previously, even after making a little bit of movement. My sacrum feels pretty easy. Maybe your low back is connecting, your mid back. Just notice wherever you are with that. Let's bring the soles of our feet together and our knees will open wide. So when I come into this, I don't actually have my feet touch each other. It's too intense in my body. You can move your feet away from your pelvis. You don't have to have it super close. So I have my feet a good ways away from my pelvis and they're not touching. But if they were, they'd have a nice firm press. So if your feet are touching, you can firmly press your left foot into your right into your left. If this is intense, you could, if you have blocks, you could support your thighs with your blocks or use cushions. You can always come back to constructive rest if this is too much. You're going to pick a leg. Doesn't matter which one because we're going to do both sides. So pick a leg and you'll bring that foot back to standing, back like into constructive rest. So half constructive rest, half cobbler's pose. This might be enough for you here, or you're going to take that leg and you're going to start to reach through your heel to extend your leg long. My blocks are in the way. Into a reclined tree pose. And then I'm going to bring my hands to my heart. I'm thinking about this extended leg. You're really stretching those muscles in your hips, in your thighs. And then on the other side where your knee is bent, it's a little more shortening of the muscle. Or it's more active. Extended leg, bend your knee, bring your foot to your mat. Come back into your full Supta Baddha Konasana, cobbler's pose. And we'll switch sides. You'll pick your other leg up so that the foot's on the mat, your knee is standing tall. Check in. Then if it's okay, you'll extend that leg out long. Pressing through your heel so that leg's nice and active. Really imagine that you're reaching from your hip point all the way out your heel. If that's too much, you can also press through the ball of your foot. So depending on sciatica, sacrum issues, some other things going on, but we do want that leg to be active. The leg that's extended, you'll bend your knee again and bring your foot to your mat. One more time, come back to that Baddha Konasana. Hands at heart, if that's comfortable for you. Bring your feet back to your mat, have your knees stand tall, take a moment. And then make your way over to one side. Slowly press yourself up. Just transitioning from seated into a tabletop, onto all fours. So if you like padding for your knees, you're welcome to get that. Coming on to all fours. Have your blocks or block nearby. Padding can be nice, it's not necessary. It's also not harmful or hurtful if you don't actually need it. So starting in your tabletop with your wrists below your shoulders, your knees below your hips, and then make those adjustments if you need to. You could step your hands a little more forward, out to the side. You could turn fingers out or in, depending on wrist issues, anything else.
And then thinking about the back of your heart. So you're really spreading your shoulder blades on your back. So make sure you're not like sinking. So there's a nice spread, and you can imagine your tailbone reaching toward the back of your mat. Let's move to our breath. So the next time you exhale, you'll start with that tail, and you'll start to bring your tail under your body, allowing your spine to follow. Head and neck move last. When you inhale, tilt your tail up, opening your heart. Opening your heart to love. And then when you exhale, you're pressing something out that's not serving you in this moment. Inhale to open. You're going to your own breath. So it's likely very different than mine. Let's finish this round and do one more. When you're complete, you just come back to that even tabletop, making sure your fingers are spread wide. Shoulder blades are nice and wide on your back. And then take your hands and step them one handprint forward from where they just were, pressing through all your fingers again. We're going to come into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Curl your toes under, lift your knees up, and shift your hips back. So you're shifting them back and up. You're allowing your head to be relaxed. So your gaze is likely at your toes. A little hard for me to see my toes with my scarf in the way, but I can see them. So I'm not dropping my head looking at my knees, and I'm not looking at the middle of my mat or my hands. So my neck is pretty nice and long. You can even think about slightly tucking your chin, just ever so slightly, to allow your neck to be long on all four sides, especially in the back. And then you can press your heels down toward the mat, press your thighs away from your hands, lengthening your spine. You can keep your knees deeply bent. Sometimes that's more helpful to keep your spine long. If you'd rather do a wall dog or stay in tabletop, you're welcome to do that. Let's bring our knees back down to the mat. I'm going to shift just so it's easier for you to see me. So from your tabletop or tabletop variation, step your right foot forward. I'm going to scoot back even more. There we go. You can use your blocks. You can have your hands on your thigh. If you have one block, I would say have it on the inside of your foot. Both hands on your block if you want to use a block. So we want our spine to be tall and our heart open. So just in a regular low lunge right now, your back toes can be curled under or pressing the top of your foot into the mat. And then we're going to come into what's called lounging lizard. So both hands in blocks come on the inside of the foot. You could stay upright if that's where it's better for you. And then heel toe your foot off to the side. So if you're on the facing the short edge of your mat, likely your toes are off the mat and your heel is on the mat. So this is a lunge to really get into the deep-seated hip flexor. I can feel on the outside of my hip as well. So make sure that you're safe, that your knee is not too far forward. So you've got to have your heel right under your knee and you're at an angle. And for me, it's plenty here to stay high up on my blocks. You may find it's more appropriate to come a little lower. Be mindful of your back. So until recently, I would come down here, and Zoom yoga is the thing these days for yoga. And I happen to look at myself and I realize that I really round my back when I come a little lower. So for now, I'm going to stay here so I can work on lengthening, opening my heart. I have a little bit of movement when I'm lower, but I feel my body feels better and safer here. And I'm still getting a really good stretch. It's intense. So remember your diaphragm touches your psoas, so you can breathe into your inner hip. A teacher will say, breathe into your big toe, and it's like, you can't do that, right? But you could think about your energy. So here you can think about your energy, your breath affecting your hip, whether it's the front or the back. Let's heel toe that foot back to center. Come back into your tabletop. If you want to just stay here on your blocks and do a little shifting of your hips side to side. You can come into a regular tabletop and do a cat-cow or two. And then let's step our left foot forward to come into your lunge on this side. Low lunge first, so hands are either on blocks or up on your thigh. One block, I think it's better to have it on the inside of your foot. Bring your hands and blocks on the inside of your foot and start to heel toe off to the side. So toes are at an angle, knee is right above your heel. And as we hold this, you might find that you can go lower because you're opening up as you hold this pose and you really breathe into it. But it can be intense. It can get more intense. You may find you actually need to come higher up. So again, honoring that. I'm feeling plenty of intensity here. Don't need to add anything to it. You can still feel intensity being higher up. It's a little more balancy here, but still works. Start to heel toe back to center. Coming back into your tabletop. Shifting into a child's pose or coming to lie on your back. So child's pose, your knees go wide, big toes touch or come close together. You sit back on your heels and then you drape your torso over your thighs. You can stack your hands, your fists. You could use a block if your forehead does not reach the mat. Even if it doesn't reach, sometimes it just feels good. Coming back upright, I'm going to ask you to make your way up to standing. So how would you like to transition? Do you want to do a downward facing dog? Do you want to come from a standing forward fold? If you have anything on your mat, move it out of the way. I'm just going to come on up, but I'm being mindful of my transition. Give you a breath or two here. In case you're moving differently, I'm going to get some water. Coming into our mountain pose, Tadasana. So checking the placement of your feet, that your feet are parallel to each other, parallel to the edges of your mat. You're not slouching forward, so your heart is open, pressing through your feet to feel the lift. And let's step our feet wide. Rotate your right foot and leg 90 degrees. Kick your back heel back about an inch, toes in slightly. Press through that front foot, press through that back foot, and then start to bend your front knee. So here, before we do anything else, you feel your hips, right? Especially your inner hips. Your outer hips are doing some stuff too. So front leg is externally rotating and back leg is internally rotating. So notice how that affects your outer hip, your inner hip, and vice versa. And then think about your heart. So put your hands on your heart and start to open your heart to the long edge of your mat. And then when you're ready, you're going to bring your arms up to shoulder height. So you're reaching from behind your heart to reach your arms up, to reach through your fingertips. If you've taken classes with me before, I've talked about the nerve issue going on here. So I'm going to adjust my hand and arm for my body, honoring my body. Not putting myself in any extra pain than necessary. For a quick show, and then I adjust for me. Let's bring our hands down, straighten your front leg, parallel your feet, and we'll set up for the second side, rotating your left foot and leg 90 degrees. Back heel kicks back about an inch. Toes are in slightly. You want a little shift in your hips. So feeling that internal rotation, external rotation, as you press through your feet to bend your front knee. Hands on your heart to help you turn your upper belly and heart open toward the long edge of your mat. And then from the back of your heart, so you can even start here, I'm just going to do the one arm, reaching the arm up, reaching the fingertips, having that opening from your heart. I can even do it even with the arm that's not extended out to the side. Typically your gaze is over your front middle finger, but find the place that's best for you, for your body today. Bring your arms down, hands at your hips, straighten your front leg, parallel your feet, and then step your feet back together into your mountain pose. We're going to transition to some balance work. So check in if you need to be by a wall, by a piece of furniture, please do that. Lean a little bit more weight to your right foot and leg as you bend your left knee. And you're just going to pick your foot up. If this is where you should be today, this is where you be. If you can hug your knees into your chest, you'll hug your knee into your chest. And then my right hand's going to let go. My left hand's going to take the knee and start to open out to the side. Keep breathing. It's okay if you fall over. Maybe this other arm does something else to help you with your balance. Come back to center, hugging that knee in. Release. Give it a shake. Second side. So thinking about the press, the connection with your feet, the lift. That's going to help you with your balance. Locking your gaze. More weight into your left foot and leg as you bend your right knee, picking your foot up. You can work from right here. You can even work with your big toe on the mat. If you're ready, you'll hug your knee into your chest. Staying tall. Then your left hand will release. Your right hand will take your knee out to the side. Left arm can be at your hip, out to the side, up, anywhere that's going to help you with your balance. Ooh, there I go. And then come back to center, hugging in one more time, release. Give it a good shake. Nice. Okay, we're going to make our way down onto our belly. So I'm going to kind of come into a squat, back to my tabletop, and then make my way down onto my belly. So stack your hands and rest your forehead, your chin, your cheek here. If that's not okay, you could be on your forearms or some other variation. This is a crocodile and a baby belly back bend where you could stay. If you want to do more, bring your hands under your shoulders. My head is up off the mat so that you can hear me, but you should have your chin or your forehead on the mat. Your toes are not curled under, so press the tops of your feet into the mat and your knees into the mat. Press your hip bones in the mat and feel your belly lift up toward your spine. Shoulders up toward the ears and then up toward the ceiling. Start to inhale to peel up. As you come up, slight tuck of your chin to allow the back of your neck to be long. So pressing your hip points into the mat, opening your heart. Next exhale, come on down. Resting the best way for you. That could also mean wiggling out your hips or doing a little front side down windshield wipering. You can stay here or set up for another back bend. If you're going to do that, bring your arms down by your sides. Have your hands by your hips and your palms facing up. Same setup, pressing to the tops of your feet, your knees, pressing your hip points into the mat, shoulders up towards your ears and then up toward the ceiling. Keep pressing your hip points as you lift your legs. Press your arms and your palms and triceps up toward the ceiling and then peel your chest up off the mat. Slight tuck of that chin. Pressing your hip points, opening your heart. Next exhale, come on down, resting the best way for you, releasing your hips, your low back. You're welcome to stay here. Come into a child's pose or come to lie on your back and hug your knees into your chest. Wherever you are, you'll bring yourself up into a seated position. So we're going to set up for a supported bridge and then our Shavasana. So if you have a block, you can use your block for supported bridge. If you don't have a block, you could use a folded blanket. For this, we don't want any support under our head. We want to keep the natural curve of our neck, keep our neck safe. So if you absolutely need something on your head, it's a thin amount of blanket. It's not a thick pillow. This is too thick. So I would unfold it several times. You can stay in your supported bridge for your Shavasana if that works, or have things around you that you will use for your Shavasana. So if you have like socks that you want to put on, or you use a bolster or an eye pillow or something like that, have those nearby. And then come to lie down in your constructive rest. I'll do setup for both variations. So we start the same, constructive rest, press your feet into your mat, lift your hips up, slide your support under. So with the block, it's under your sacrum and pelvis, not in your low back. If you're going to use the blanket or towel, or if you have a bolster and you want to use a bolster, same setup, constructive rest, press your feet in, slide your support. This supports your sacrum, your pelvis, and your low back. It's almost like your butt is hanging off of your support. So you choose what's best for you. Your legs can stay in typical constructive rest or feet wide and knees together. One of my favorite poses, it's restorative, it's supported, and it's a nice subtle opening of the heart and of the hips. If you adjusted your feet or legs in any way, come back to that constructive rest. Press your feet into the mat to lift your hips up, sliding your support out of the way and then hips back down. If you want to stay in your supported bridge, you can stay. So really for me, what I'm going to do is just take my blanket and slide it under my head. I'm going to stay in constructive rest for my Shavasana. For my YouTube classes, my Shavasanas are much shorter, but if you'd like to take a longer Shavasana, you can pause, set the timer on your phone, 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then join after. I'm going to step my feet wide and allow my knees to support each other. You're welcome to extend your legs out long, legs up the wall. Have support under your knees if your legs are out long. to deepen your breath. Inhaling love. Exhaling something that you need to let go of. Start to make small movements in your fingers and toes. You can hug your knees in, you can stretch. Maybe move your head and neck side to side. When you're ready, make your way over to one side, taking a breath or two here. Excuse me, in your fetal position. And then you'll press your hands into your mat, bringing your head up last. So lift yourself up, not lifting with your head, and allow your head and neck to come up last. Let's find a comfortable seated position, whatever that is for you. It does not have to be cross-legged. If you'd like to stay lying down, you're welcome for that as well. So if you are seated, sitting tall and well, heart open. You can bring your hands to your heart if you'd like. I just have my right hand placed on my heart, my left hand on my right. Breathing in love. Breathing out something you don't need to hold on to. We'll bring our hands together at heart center in Anjali Mudra. Your thumbs pressing into the center of your heart, your sternum. Keep peace in your mind. Keep strength in your body. And keep love in your heart. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed class. You're welcome to make comment below. You're welcome to email me. Find me on social media. So my email is therealgofitgirl@gmail.com. Social media, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter @GoFitGirl and Instagram as TheRealGoFitGirl. Depending on when you're watching and practicing this yoga video, I am hosting a donation-based yoga class on Valentine's Day, Sunday, February 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific. So if you're interested, it's donation. So if you can't afford to pay, you just email me that you want to attend class at least 2 hours before. That gives me time to get things organized and make sure that you get the Zoom invite. So if you'd like to attend, email me. Let me know at therealgofitgirl@gmail.com. And I hope to practice with you again soon. Have a lovely day.